How do you set up a document in MLA format? I'm going to take you through the steps. We've done this in class, but sometimes you guys need a repetition and a repetition and a repetition. So here we go. The first thing that happens when you open up a Word document is you have a lot of defaults that you're going to need to change. I'm going to want you, when you do MLA format, to use the Times New Roman font. So click Control A on your keyboard, which will highlight everything. Go up to your font and select Times New Roman. You may have to scroll all the way down to where the T's are on your fonts if you don't use this regularly. You're going to also want to change it to a 12-point font, and then you're going to want to remove some defaults. The first default that you're going to want to remove is the extra space after the paragraph. We're going to remove that, and then we're going to switch our spacing to double space. If you leave the extra default spacing at points where you hit enter, you will have triple spacing in your document. You want to remove that. So you then put your name. Let's pretend your name is Alicia Montgomery, and type in your first and your last name. Then you're going to put your instructor's name, in this case for this class, Gardner. Then you are going to put your class name. So it might be Senior Language Arts or AP English Literature, depends on which course you're taking. Then you want to put the date, European style. So for example, today's date, if I was submitting this paper now, would be the 3rd of November, 2016. And there I have my heading. Now I need to do some things in my header, not the heading, but in the header. I need to insert page numbers. So I'm going to go up to the top here, and I'm going to double click, and this will open up. I can also go up to View Header as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a page number. So I go up to Insert here. I go over to Page Number. I want it on the top of the page. I want it right justified, so that means I'm going to pick plain number 3. And there's my page number. I'm then going to type my last name, put a space between my last name and the page number. I'm going to highlight this because I'm going to want to have this in 12-point Times New Roman font as well. Alright, so here's your header and here's your heading. Next, we're going to hit enter, and we're going to put the title, whatever the title might be, college and career research paper, a literary criticism on Wuthering Heights, in which you have a title. Typically, you want your title to reflect what the paper is going to be about. The better the title, the clearer perspective your reader is going to have on what you might be exploring in the paper. So this is centered, right here, we're centered. But we don't want the rest of the paper centered. So after we hit enter, we need to go back and left justify. Now at this point, we would tab in and begin writing your paper. This is the introduction of the paper. And you would continue to write the rest of your paper. We'll talk about sources, citing them parenthetically. But first we're going to talk about your works cited page. So you're creating a paper. You will use secondary sources most likely, and so you're going to want to cite your sources both in the text of your paper parenthetically, a shortened version, and then you want to do your whole source citation on your works cited page. So we're going to insert a page break because we want the works cited page to be on its own page no matter how much writing we do in front of it. So we insert a page break. Again, I'll scroll down, and here we have our works cited. Now this is the other place that we're going to center. We're going to center works cited. When we hit enter, we want to go back to left justified. Now we need to view our ruler because we're going to have to do a hanging indent. So if I view my ruler, I see it above, and here is where I put my source citation. So for example, if I'm citing a book, I would have the author's last name, their surname. So surname, then it would be the person's actual first name, a period, then it would be the title of the book italicized. And let me actually italicize this. Or maybe he doesn't want to do it for me. Let's try again. We're going to italicize the title of the book. And make sure we actually capitalize. And then we are going to have where it was published. Usually if it's a novel, it would be someplace like New York, 9 times out of 10. And then the publisher. So it might be somebody like Penguin or Simon & Schuster. Then we need to put the date that this edition of the novel or the book or the text was published. It might have originally been published in 1930, but this edition might be like 2009. So we put that date. So again, we need the date, publication. And then we need the fact that it is a print source. So again, a simple citation would be the last name, the first name, the title, place of publication, the publisher, the date, and then that it's a print source. Now, most of you in your college and career research paper were citing websites that did not, in fact, actually have an author. So you're ending up with citations where you've got to figure out who is doing what, okay? So here we go. So let's say we're at Big Future at the College Board looking at Georgia State University. Now, we're going to look at, number one, what is the title of this page? Well, the title of the page is Georgia State University. The site where it's published is Big Future by the College Board. So here I am. I'm going to make it easy for myself. I'm going to just Control-C, copy it. I'm going to go back to my document. I'm going to do Control-Alt-V, just so I don't get any formatting, like weird big font. And this is the title of my page. I don't have an actual author, so I'm going to put this. This is the title. Now this is not the title of a book, so it's kind of like the title of a chapter almost. And the book is the actual publication. So we're going to put Georgia State University, and then we're going to go back and look, okay, it's Big Future by the College Board, okay? So that's the title of my publisher and my publication. So Big Future by the College Board is the title of the site, right? Let's spell it correctly. And normally I want to find a date. I want to find a date in which it was published. If it's a blog post or a newspaper article online, there'll be a day, a month, and a year. But a site like this, I'm probably going to have something, maybe if I'm lucky, a copyright date, 2016. So the last time this was updated was 2016. So that's my date of publication. This is a web source, and it is being accessed on the 3rd of November, 2016. Now, after 2009, MLA no longer required you to do the URL in your citation because links break, but for our purposes, a URL might be a nice addition to this citation. So I'm going to put my lovely little bracket. I'm going to do Control-V. I'm going to put another bracket here. When I put the period, it's going to try to hyperlink, and I'm going to hit Control-Z to undo that. Now, how do I tell the difference between this citation and where this citation ends and this one begins? Very simply, I'm going to have a hanging indent for all my sources. So I highlight it, everything that goes on after my works cited, I'm going to pull the bottom part of this hourglass over, and it's going to do a hanging indent. That lets me know that this is part of this citation. So when a citation, you're typing it, it goes to the next line, it should automatically indent in. Now, let's say that this person's name was James. Their last name was James, and their first name was Robert, and the title of the book was Going to College, and it was published in New York. Now, New York is well known. I don't have to put the state, but if it was say Upper Saddle River, that would be in New Jersey, and I'd have to put the state. Okay, so let's say it's a textbook and it was published there. And my publisher is Prentice Hall, because it's a textbook publisher. And so all that information is in the book on the very first couple pages where the copyright is. Let's say that it was published in 2009 and it's a print edition. Well, wait a minute. James, J comes after G in the alphabet. So that means that I have to move this source. I have to put my sources in alphabetical order. So they're in alphabetical order by the first piece of information. Now let's say that I was citing my source in my paper. I'm writing a sentence. I am giving you information from source, so I cite my source. And this information is coming from the Georgia State University's page on Big Future by Georgia. So I'm going to copy and paste this to make my life easy. I'm going to go up, because this information came from this supposed web page. I put it in here. I have to remove the period though, because the period is going to go after this parentheses, because it's going to say, hey, this sentence right here, the information came from this source. When you scroll down to my works cited, you'll see what that entire source is. So if I wrote another sentence on and said, going to college requires this, and this, and whatever the information was, and this came from our lovely source down here in the bottom by Robert James, I would actually have to put in James, and because it's a print source and they're actual page numbers, I'd have to put the page number or page numbers if it was like 235 in which the source came from. And so I'd end up with a paragraph in which I had sentences that at the end of them, where sources were used, have a parenthetical citation. And that is how you set up your document in MLA format.